That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, my dudes, just in case you were unable to see our last video, I want to remind everyone, guys, I'm not going through and I'm not making one wide receiver ranking video with 24 players. I think that would be completely disingenuous. While yes, it probably would be better for YouTube, I think that if I really want to do a better service, I should take a little more time, break him down into 6-player segments. That way I can dive deeper with the analysis and we can have a better understanding of the profile for a player coming into 2021. So in this video, we are going to be rounding out our top 12 wide receivers. We have already discussed the top 6, which I'll recap in just 1 second. But of course, if you want to find that deeper analysis on those top 6 wide receivers, you can find that on this channel. We uploaded that video 2 days ago. And yeah, before we get into it, guys, I want to remind everyone, we are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Now, if you haven't heard, Underdog Fantasy said if we hit 10,000 signups with promo code FLOCK, they will pay for us to fly people down to Tampa, Florida. They will pay for us to go to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. We'll vlog the entire thing. We'll have a Florida Flock meetup after that. And it should be really easy to hit this goal. This video itself should probably close in on about 10,000 views. And if we go through, also just look at everything that you're getting by signing up for Underdog Fantasy, they're going to give you $25 of a bonus sign up when you deposit $10. So you're getting paid $25 to go in and do some fantasy football drafts. On top of this, you're going to get all of my 2021 rankings that are going to be consistently updated leading up until the season. So if you want all of our rankings, if you want also our draft guide, hundreds and hundreds of pages of information for this entire season, please make sure you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. We're also going to be live streaming every single night, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you can come out, because we'll be doing those drafts every single night on Underdog Fantasy. And that should be it. Let's dive into our wide receiver rankings here. Let's recap our top 6. Obviously, Davante Adams at 1, and we're not going to be giving any explanation behind these rankings at the top because we already did so in the last video. But Adams at 1, Tyreek Hill at 2, Stephon Diggs at 3, DeAndre Hopkins at 4, Calvin Ridley at 5, and DK Metcalf at 6. So now let's go to our wide receiver 7. Leading us off is going to be A.J. Brown. Okay, so here with A.J. Brown, he's literally neck and neck in our rankings with the DK Metcalf, where if you pull up our most updated set of rankings, where you're going to find that we actually have DK Metcalf as our 21st player overall, and we have A.J. Brown at 22. And with A.J. Brown, I mean, it's kind of sad to even talk about him this season because the ceiling that we would have seen before the Julio Jones signing would have been immense, because we look at Brown and obviously coming out of Ole Miss, this was an elite level wide receiver prospect. He comes in to end his rookie season. He posts historical marks with his efficiency that he has in an offense that was crazy efficient once Ryan Tannehill took over. And he continues that trend in 2020 where he doesn't necessarily have an elite level of volume. I mean, he's only seeing 7.5 targets a game, but he's still the wide receiver 7 in fantasy points on a per game basis. And what's significant about this is now back-to-back seasons for A.J. Brown before he was 23 years old, where he was at the very top of the NFL in efficiency. Now, y'all know I am always one to say to fade efficiency and to go out there and chase volume, but efficiency for players their rookie and sophomore years is actually going to be a lot more meaningful than efficiency that we would see from a player when they're in their 6th season in the NFL, because we really need to establish a baseline for the talent level of a player. And I think A.J. Brown, and based on what he showed us his rookie and sophomore season, we can already come out here and say this is maybe one of the best 5 receivers in the NFL. Now we go in and, I mean, it was looking like it was going to shape up to be an incredible season for A.J. Brown, where Corey Davis leaves to the New York Jets in free agency. That opens up a ton of targets in this offense. Also, you actually have Jonnu Smith going over to New England, and the offensive coordinator going to Atlanta. I don't necessarily want to say that's going to help this offense whatsoever, but it is going to be notable as a notable change. And lastly, they only bring in Josh Reynolds. So with all of that shaping up, we are looking at A.J. Brown going, well, yeah, he hasn't had a crazy target share through the first 2 years of his NFL career. We can expect that elite jump going into year 3. And at the same time, he's been at the very top of the NFL in his efficiency. So if all of a sudden he's a wide receiver that can be seeing 9 targets a game, and we have seen his previous efficiency marks, A.J. Brown, I think, would have had the potential to be the wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy before the Julio Jones trade. But Julio gets traded there, and I understand, guys, a lot of people are going to say, well, Mason, Julio Jones is going to take the defensive attention away from A.J. Brown. That's going to allow A.J. Brown to be a lot better on a per-target basis, and I will agree with you. I think yards per target, I think touchdowns per target are going to go up for A.J. Brown with the presence of Julio Jones, because the defense isn't going to be able to just key in on Brown himself. They're going to have to go through, make sure they're game planning for Julio as well, keep 2 safeties back. But a big thing is that we know you would rather have a receiver project to see more volume rather than a higher efficiency mark, because efficiency is going to be volatile season to season. So the addition of Julio Jones, while yes, it helps A.J. Brown in certain ways, the negative side of it, where A.J. Brown's going to have to drop a decent amount because of the targets that Julio Jones is going to command, is actually going to outweigh that. Now, I will say, possibly we see this offense scheme a little more pass happy with the addition of Julio Jones. So I'm still going to maintain my rank of an A.J. Brown at wide receiver 7. This is where he finished last year, and you would naturally assume that going into year 3, when A.J. Brown's only 24 years old, that he's going to be a much better wide receiver than he was the year prior. But let me know what y'all are thinking here. I think A.J. Brown's going to be a clear wide receiver 7, and honestly, he's back-to-back with DK Metcalf. I'm fine if you taking A.J. Brown over Metcalf, and I'm also fine with you taking Justin Jefferson above both the wide receivers we previously mentioned, because Justin Jefferson's going to be our wide receiver 8, and if you pull up our overall rankings right now, we actually have it where DK Metcalf's 21, you have A.J. Brown at 22, and Justin Jefferson at 23. And with Jefferson, there's not that much to discuss here, because yes, he posted one of the, if not the best rookie wide receiver seasons of all time last year. I mean, you pull it up, he did this every single way. He had almost 8 targets a game. And to be completely honest, what was surprising with Justin Jefferson is with the volume he had, you would expect him to score more touchdowns. I mean, his yards per target were through the roof. But what was weird is the usage that Adam Thielen got in the red zone. Now, I will say that if you just take a step back and you go, well, yes, Adam Thielen has had ridiculous touchdown rates the past 2 years. We really don't want to necessarily say that's a guarantee to happen this upcoming season as well. Now, I understand that definitely Adam Thielen had a lot of plays called for him when they got inside the red zone, when they were going through and looking to throw the ball into the end zone. It was almost all Adam Thielen in that range. But just because it was that way last year, I don't necessarily think that it's going to be that way again, because we have to remember, guys, we didn't have OTAs last year. We didn't have the preseason. We had a very limited training camp as well. So for a rookie to kind of come in and to get automatically implemented the best he can in a game plan, that's a big ask for not only the rookie wide receiver, but also the coaching staff in general. So I think we could potentially see Justin Jefferson's role slightly change this upcoming season, or possibly he's used in the red zone a little bit more. And we know he's going into year 2. Usually you don't see wide receivers post elite seasons in year 1. Year 2 is the breakout that we see. I mean, we just had this with the receiver that we discussed in A.J. Brown previously, and that Brown was the wide receiver 31 in points per game his rookie season, and he jumped up to be the wide receiver 7 in points per game his second year. Now, Justin Jefferson going into that second year, and I think he could actually get more touchdown volume. I am going to have a hard time ranking him over either DK Metcalf or a player like A.J. Brown. The main reason is I think all 3 wide receivers are very similar with their talent, but I think the difference is with a DK Metcalf, you know that you have elite quarterback play with the Russell Wilson. With A.J. Brown, I think we don't want to say that Ryan Tannehill is a fantastic quarterback, but he is definitely above average. At the very minimum, we know he's a vastly superior option over Kirk Cousins, who's going to be the quarterback for Justin Jefferson. So these guys are all ranked back to back to back in our rankings. I'm fine with you going and getting Justin Jefferson over the previous 2. Personally, I am going to have him at 8. And now our wide receiver 9 is going to be Keenan Allen. This is going to be one of the safest picks that you can have in fantasy football. We currently have him ranked as the 25th player overall. So then if you want to be drafting Keenan, you're essentially going to have to get him at the beginning of the 3rd, the end of the 2nd, which I'm completely fine. If you want to start off your draft, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, I think that would be a fantastic start. And here with Keenan Allen, I mean, the play is so easy. You look at him the past 2 years, in 2019 and in 2020, this is a receiver that in both seasons averaged over 9 targets a game. To go along with this, we know that he's going to be playing with the best quarterback of his entire career in 2021 with second-year Justin Herbert. And I think this overall offense is honestly probably going to be a very intriguing spot to try to find some value, because we know that there's nothing that you can see that improves this offense more than the changes that they had in their offensive line. They bring in Rashawn Slater. They grab a very good center from the Green Bay Packers, pay him a ton of money in free agency. I apologize. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. It's not like I know every single center in the NFL, but regardless, they bring in a top center for the offensive line. They bring in Rashawn Slater. So this is going to be an overall unit that is vastly improved. And I think that could increase the overall passing efficiency that you have from the Los Angeles Chargers. And if Keenan Allen was the wide receiver 7 last year in fantasy points per game, he was the wide receiver 8 in fantasy points per game the year prior, I don't think there's really any reason to expect him to get worse this upcoming season. I mean, you go through, you see that he's 29 years old. And honestly, that doesn't really scare me whatsoever, because you look at a Keenan Allen and you go, okay, well, if we're going to be expecting wide receiver to fall off when he's 29, 30 years old, that's going to be someone that bases their game around speed. That's going to be someone like a T.Y. Hilton, who he always won. His calling card was the fact that he was faster than the defensive backs. He could get behind the safeties and get hit with those deep balls. Where Keenan Allen, his calling card is going to be his route running ability, his ability to create separation, as well as just catch the ball with some fantastic hands. And we have seen with the Larry Fitzgerald that player can last a very long time. So Keenan Allen, not expecting a fall off anytime soon in his talent. I think that he could easily be a top 3 wide receiver this year if you actually have Justin Herbert take the leap forward that a lot of people are projecting him to. So yeah, I'm going to be very excited about drafting Keenan Allen. Now our next receiver is going to be our wide receiver 10. We actually just updated our 2021 rankings, moving him up to wide receiver 10. And this is going to be CeeDee Lamb. So guys, we need to understand. I've said this so many times before. Yes, the CeeDee Lamb hype is strong. And if you think the price point of him going at the beginning of the 3rd round right now is a little rich, I could easily see CeeDee Lamb as a consistent pick in the 2nd round by the time Hard Knocks is out there. Hard Knocks is pumping out episodes, hyping up CeeDee Lamb as that this is a receiver that has been taking the reps in Dallas over Amari Cooper, with Amari Cooper being on the PUP. Now, yes, Amari Cooper is recently back at practice, which of course is going to be great for this overall offense. And I will just say, I am personally projecting CeeDee Lamb to be the wide receiver 1 on this team. And I think that Dak Prescott, if I had to go through and make a bet on quarterbacks to lead the NFL in passing yards this upcoming season, I would go Mahomes 1, Dak Prescott 2, then maybe Josh Allen at 3. But Dak would be at the very top. So you're looking at CeeDee Lamb, and that this was an elite wide receiver prospect coming out of OU. And I will say, just a quick side note, I saw CeeDee Lamb play in person against the University of Texas in 2019, and I don't think I have ever seen a better performance by any professional football player ever. I mean, it was embarrassing what he did to us. But regardless, with Lamb, he was an elite prospect coming out of OU. Somehow he falls to the 15th pick to the Dallas Cowboys. I hate to say it, but his rookie season was actually very impressive. Now, I know if you look at the overall stats, you're going to see that he was the wide receiver 35, and you're not necessarily going to get that excited. But guys, you really need to focus in on what happened with Dak Prescott in the game. And with Dak Prescott in the game, CeeDee Lamb came out and he was a top 15 receiver automatically. And we have to keep in mind, guys, that this is someone that had no preseason. He had no rookie OTAs. He had a very limited training camp. And he came out and automatically was close to a borderline wide receiver 1 in fantasy his first day on the field. That didn't even happen with Jefferson. Jefferson took a couple weeks to get going. Now, of course, it fell apart quickly, given the fact that Dak Prescott goes down. At the same time, you have the injury to the offensive lines, which just drives down pretty much the efficiency of the overall offense. And it's going to be really hard to expect a CeeDee Lamb to be able to continue to produce in that environment. But this year, I think you could be seeing a very similar type jump that an A.J. Brown took, that a DK Metcalf took. I want to say that CeeDee Lamb, in my opinion, actually profiles to be a very similar wide receiver to an A.J. Brown, where A.J. Brown's going to be a little more on the outside, dominating players on that end. And yes, CeeDee Lamb's going to be more running routes over the middle of the field. Maybe he plays more from the slot. But at the end of the day, both wide receivers were elite producers going into the NFL. They had great college profiles. And then they get to the NFL. They each show great flashes in their rookie season. And they have a situation that is getting significantly better the following year. So yeah, I think that CeeDee Lamb is going to be in for a massive season this upcoming year. And right now, if you think me ranking him as a early 3rd round pick is aggressive, just wait until we get Hard Knocks, because I think CeeDee Lamb could easily be going in the late 2nd in almost every single draft in just a couple weeks. So now let's go over to a receiver that we moved down one spot just because I wanted to get CeeDee Lamb up there. Let's go to Allen Robinson, who is now going to be our wide receiver 11. And with Allen Robinson here, I just think that while a lot of people would be ranking Terry McLaurin at the wide receiver 11 spot, it makes no sense. If you look at the 2v2 versus Allen Robinson and Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson is a receiver that has posted multiple top 10 years at the receiver position through his entire career. And we go through and we look at the quarterbacks that he has played with. I know a lot of people want to go, Mason, look at Terry McLaurin. He played with Alex Smith last year. He played with Dwayne Haskins. Allen Robinson has played and produced top 10 seasons at the receiver position with Blake Bortles, with Mitchell Trubisky, and with Nick Foles. That alone should be one of the most impressive things that you have ever heard. And with Allen Robinson, I understand that it seems like he's been in the NFL forever. Of course, he goes, plays in Jacksonville, his rookie contract, goes and signs with Chicago for his second deal, and he's actually playing under the franchise tag this year. So it seems like we've had a long road with Allen Robinson. And yes, he was drafted back in 2014, but at the time of the NFL draft, Allen Robinson was only 20 years old when he was drafted. So Allen Robinson, still surprisingly very young, very similar to what you actually have with Mike Evans. And just like Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson is getting one of the most impressive quarterback upgrades that you're going to see this year. And that you go through and you see, okay, well, he's going from the combination of Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles. Now he's getting Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. I will say, guys, I understand Andy Dalton, a very bad quarterback, but I think we can safely say that Dalton is better than Trubisky. I think we can safely say that Andy Dalton is a better quarterback than Mitchell Trubisky. Allen Robinson, a top 10 receiver with Trubisky, and we have no idea what the upside of a Justin Fields is. Maybe Justin Fields comes in, and I'm not projecting this to be the case. I definitely prefer Trey Lance, but we can say at the same time that Fields has upside. Maybe he comes in, and he is a rookie season Deshaun Watson. And if that were to be the case, Allen Robinson's what? A top 3 wide receiver in fantasy? Because we've already seen his floor. We have seen his ceiling. He was the wide receiver 13 last year in an abysmal situation. He's the wide receiver 10 the year prior. And we go through, we go, okay, well, Allen Robinson now getting a quarterback upgrade. There are going to be nobody else in this offense to be taking targets away from him. I'm not worried about Darnell Mooney in the slightest. So Allen Robinson, I'm going to be consistently drafting him in the middle of the 3rd round. I mean, we have been higher on Allen Robinson than consensus for a very long time. And I'm not going to be stopping that anytime soon. So now another player that we've been so high on compared to consensus, and people are moving him up their draft boards. Now you see him go in the 3rd round after we were able to get him in the late 4th earlier this offseason. It's going to be Robert Woods. Okay, so with the Robert Woods, I thought we were going to be aggressive ranking him as our wide receiver 12. I mean, we did these rankings so long ago, and I was sitting there going, oh my God, how are we missing something with Woods? How is he going so late in fantasy drafts right now? This is a receiver that in 2018, the wide receiver 16. In 2019, the wide receiver 14. In 2020, the wide receiver 13. I mean, just a consistent high-end wide receiver 2, borderline wide receiver 1 over the past 2 seasons. And now this is an option that is getting a massive quarterback upgrade from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford. And we're going through and saying, okay, maybe you think that you're some quarterback guru and you don't necessarily agree that Matthew Stafford's in a massive quarterback upgrade over Jared Goff. But guys, I can tell y'all one thing, and I know one thing for sure. Sean McVay is going to be way better at understanding the game of football and how a certain quarterback is going to impact his offense that he wants to run. He is going to be better at understanding that than anybody, including myself, watching this video right now. So the fact that they were willing to go out there and pay 2 first-round picks to switch from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford should definitely tell you something in what they perceive to be the talent level of Matthew Stafford. And I'm all in on this Rams offense. Y'all know that I was actually drafting Cam Akers in the late 1st in every single draft earlier this offseason, RIP. But yeah, no, we're going to continue to draft Robert Woods. I'm expecting that he has the floor of being someone that's a top 15 receiver this upcoming year. And I think he has the ceiling of being someone that's in the top 5. If you see the overall passing offense increase in both volume and efficiency, which is what I think we can see if Sean McVay decides to be a little more aggressive with the play calling. But yeah, thank you, my dudes. I really hope that y'all enjoyed this video. And of course, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out, you can come to our live streams where we're streaming every single night. I'd love to see you out there. And yeah, and that's all I got for you, my dudes. Have a great day. Thank you to everybody supporting the show on Patreon. We got some new members in MCGC, Brian, Matthew, Craig, Ian, Woody, Colt, Marcus, Jack, and Nicholas. Thank you, my dudes.